I collapsed at work with a ruptured appendix and almost died. The doctors called my mother 4 times while I was in surgery. She hung up on them because I was interrupting my sister's surprise engagement brunch. I realized then that I wasn't their daughter. I was just their ATM. So, from my hospital bed, I executed the nuclear option. I cancelled their credit cards, revoked their car leases, and evicted my sister from the condo I paid for. In retaliation, they broke into my home, destroyed everything, and poured cement down the drains. They didn't know I had evidence. They didn't know I would press criminal charges. Watch how I sent my own mother and sister to prison. The floor of the boardroom tasted like industrial carpet cleaner and iron. That was my last coherent thought before the darkness swallowed me whole. 1 minute, I was standing in front of the executive committee of Vanguard Logistics, pointing at the Q3 projection charts and explaining our supply chain expansion in Southeast Asia. The next, the room tilted violently to the left. A sharp, searing pain like a hot knife twisting inside my abdomen ripped through me, stealing the air from my lungs. I heard my name, Elena, spoken by my CEO, Marcus, but it sounded like he was underwater. Then came the sound of my tablet hitting the glass table, followed immediately by the heavy thud of my own body hitting the floor. I was 32 years old. I was the Senior Vice President of Operations. I exercised 4 times a week, ate organic, and hadn't taken a sick day in 7 years. I didn't know it then, but my appendix had just ruptured, and septic shock was already beginning to shut down my organs. The next few hours were a blur of fragmented sensations. The scream of an ambulance siren, the harsh, blinding lights of the trauma bay, the frantic voices of doctors shouting medical shorthand that I couldn't understand. BP is dropping. 70/40. She's tachycardic. Heart rate 145. Get a central line in, now. I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell them that my parents were listed as my emergency contacts in my phone. I wanted to tell them I was scared. But my body was paralyzed by a cold, shaking rigor. Dr. Lucas Hall, the attending trauma surgeon, leaned over me. His eyes were intense, focused. Elena, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me, I tried. My fingers barely twitched. We need to operate immediately, he said to the resident beside him. She has an acute abdomen, likely a perforated appendix with peritonitis. She's going into septic shock. We need consent, or 2 attending physicians to sign off on emergency protocol. Try the next of kin again. We don't have time. I'm calling the mother again, a nurse shouted from the station. This is the 3rd attempt. I drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain morphing into a dull, terrifying numbness. Through the haze, I heard the nurse's voice. She was frustrated, almost angry. Mrs. Vance? Yes, this is St. Jude's Medical Center. Your daughter, Elena, is in critical condition. She has collapsed and... Ma'am, please listen. This is life-threatening. We need... Hello. The nurse pulled the phone away from her ear, staring at it in disbelief. Did she hang up? Dr. Harley asked, snapping on latex gloves. She said ... The nurse hesitated, looking at my trembling form with pity. She said, Elena is always dramatic. Tell her to take an aspirin and stop interrupting our afternoon. We are at an important event. And then she disconnected. Document it, Dr. Harley commanded, his voice cold. Get Dr. Evans in here to sign off on the emergency surgery. We are operating now. That was the last thing I heard before the anesthesia mask descended over my face, pulling me into the black void. I didn't wake up for 2 days. When I finally surfaced, it wasn't a gentle awakening. It felt like clawing my way out of a grave. My throat was raw from the intubation tube. My abdomen felt like it had been stitched together with barbed wire. And there was a rhythmic beeping driving a spike into my skull. I blinked, waiting for the room to come into focus. I expected to see faces. My mother, Margaret, with her look of perpetual worry. My father, Robert, pacing the floor. My younger sister, Bella, holding my hand. I was the family bank, after all. The dutiful daughter who paid off their mortgage, who funded Bella's endless string of failed business ventures, who paid for the country club memberships they couldn't afford on their pensions. Surely, if I was near death, they would be here. The room was empty. Just the sterile white walls, the 4-drip stand, and a single chair in the corner. Empty. A nurse walked in a different one from the trauma bay. She smiled when she saw my eyes open. "Welcome back, Miss Vance. You gave us quite a scare." I tried to speak, but my voice was a croak. "Water." She helped me sip from a straw. "Take it slow. You're in the ICU. You had a ruptured appendix that caused severe sepsis. Dr. Harley managed to clean out the infection, but it was touch and go for a while." "My family ... I rasped. "Are they outside?" The nurse's expression shifted. It was a subtle tightening of the lips, a quick glance at my chart to avoid eye contact. That professional mask they wear when they have bad news that isn't medical. "Miss Vance, you tried to contact your parents multiple times during the surgery and throughout yesterday. We haven't been able to get them to come in." "Maybe they are traveling," I whispered, trying to make excuses for them, as I had done my entire life. "Maybe they didn't have service. We spoke to your mother," the nurse said gently. "Twice." She didn't say anything else, but the implication hung heavy in the air. "They know. They just aren't here." "I need my phone," I said. "Miss Vance, you should rest. Please. I need my phone." Reluctantly, she retrieved my smartphone from the personal effects bag in the drawer and handed it to me. Her eyes were sympathetic. "Don't stress yourself out." She left the room. My fingers were shaking so hard I could barely unlock the screen. I had 47 missed calls from work. My CEO, my assistant, my clients, they were worried. I checked my family group chat. Nothing. Not a single message. "No. Where are you? No. Are you okay?" I opened the call log. The hospital had called my mother's number 4 times on Friday. All calls were under 20 seconds. She had answered. She had dismissed them. A cold dread settled in my chest, colder than the sepsis. I opened Instagram. I didn't have to search far. My sister Bella, the 26-year-old influencer, who lived in the condo I paid for, had posted a story 3 hours ago. The location tag read, "The Ritz-Carlton, Half Moon Bay." I tapped the story. A video played. It was a boomerang of clinking champagne glasses. My mother was laughing, her head thrown back, wearing a pink fascinator hat. My father was eating a lobster tail. Bella was in the center, wearing a white lace dress, holding up a ring finger with a massive diamond. The caption, written in swirling, sparkly text, read, "Finally engaged. Mommy and Daddy threw me the most perfect surprise brunch. So blessed to have the most supportive family ever. Hashtag future Mrs. Hashtag golden child Hashtag family first." I froze. The date stamp on the video was Friday afternoon. The exact time I was on the operating table, bleeding internally. The hospital had called them. They had told my mother I was critical. And my mother had hung up because I was interrupting Bella's surprise engagement brunch. I watched the next story. It was posted yesterday. Bella was filming a Get Ready With Me in a luxury hotel suite. "So, like, my sister is being super dramatic and ghosting us this weekend," Bella said to the camera, applying lip gloss. "She was supposed to transfer the deposit for the venue today. And she's totally Mia. Whatever. Mom says she's probably just sulking because she's single. Anyway, look at this view." My mother's voice came from the background. "Don't worry about her, Bella. She pay it on Monday. She always pays. Focus on your happiness, sweetie. It's your time. She always pays. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the hospital sheets. The pain in my abdomen was agonizing, but the pain in my chest was absolute. It wasn't a heart attack. It was the shattering of a 32-year-old illusion. I had spent my entire life trying to buy their love. I had paid off their debts. I had funded Bella's lifestyle. I had worked 80-hour weeks to ensure they lived in comfort, hoping that one day they would look at me with the same adoration they gave Bella. I was the ATM. I was the insurance policy. I was the safety net. But I wasn't their daughter. If I had died on that table 2 days ago, they would have been annoyed that the funeral costs cut into the wedding budget. Tears, hot and angry, streamed down my face. I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall. And as they fell, something inside me hardened. The dutiful, desperate to please Elena died on that operating table. Someone else had woken up in her place. The door opened and Dr. Harley walked in. He saw the tears and the phone on my lap. He seemed to understand immediately. "Miss Vance," he said softly, "do you want me to call a social worker? Or a friend?" I looked at him. My eyes were dry now. "No, doctor," I said. My voice was weak but steady. "I need you to call my lawyer." 2 hours later, Jennifer Sterling walked into my ICU room. Jennifer wasn't just my lawyer. She was a shark in a silk blouse. We had met 5 years ago when I needed help structuring the stock options for my promotion at Vanguard. Since then, she had managed my estate planning. She was the only person outside of work who knew exactly how much I was worth, and exactly how much of it I was bleeding out to my family. She took one look at me pale, hooked up to monitors, with a drainage tube coming out of my side, and her usually stoic expression cracked. "Jesus, Elena," she whispered, placing her briefcase on the table. "I thought you were invincible." "Appendix," I whispered, the morphine making my head swim but leaving my anger crystal clear. "Septic shock. Almost died." And she looked around the empty room. "Where are the leeches? I mean, your parents?" "Half Moon Bay," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "Bella got engaged. They couldn't be bothered to leave the brunch." Jennifer's jaw tightened. She didn't offer pity. She knew I didn't want it. She pulled out a chair, sat down, and opened her laptop. "Okay," she said, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I assume we aren't here to discuss your will." "We are," I said. "I need to change it. Immediately. Done." "Who is the new beneficiary?" "A charity," I said. "Any charity. The cat shelter. A library. I don't care. Just not them. If I flatline tonight, Jennifer, I want you to ensure they don't get a single cent. Not my 401k. Not my life insurance. Not my stocks. Nothing." Jennifer typed furiously. "I'm drafting a codicil right now. I'll have a notary here within the hour." "What about the power of attorney?" "Currently, your father is listed as your medical proxy and financial agent if you are incapacitated." A chill went down my spine. If I had been in a coma, my father would have had access to my accounts. He could have drained them for my care and spent it on Bella's wedding. "Revoke it," I said sharply, wincing as the movement pulled at my stitches. "You are my proxy now. You and Marcus, my CEO. He respects me. He won't steal from me." "Consider it done," Jennifer said. She looked at me over the rim of her glasses. "Now, what about the living expenses? The last time we reviewed your finances, you were carrying a heavy load for them." "I want to audit it," I said. "Right now. Read it out to me. Everything I pay for." Jennifer opened a spreadsheet. It was a document we jokingly called the Vance Family Welfare Fund. Hearing it read aloud in the quiet hum of the ICU was nauseating. Okay, Jennifer began. Let's start with real estate. You hold the title to the condo in downtown Seattle where Bella resides. You pay the mortgage, HOA fees, and utilities. Approximately $4,200 a month. She pays zero rent, I asked, though I knew the answer. Zero. You listed it as family support. Next, your parents' home in Tacoma. The deed is in their name, but you have a direct debit set up for their mortgage payment. $2,800 a month. Plus, you pay their property taxes annually. Go on. Vehicle leases, Jennifer continued. A Range Rover for your father. A Mercedes C-Class for Bella. Both leases are in your name to secure the credit, but they are the primary drivers. Insurance is also on your policy. Total monthly cost, $1,900. I closed my eyes. God, I was an idiot. I had told myself I was being a good daughter. I was actually just a doormat with a high credit limit. Credit cards, Jennifer said, her voice dropping an octave. You have an American Express Platinum. Your mother and Bella are authorized users. Do you want to know the balance for this month? Tell me. Current balance is $14,500. It seems there was a surge in charges over the weekend. The Ritz-Carlton. A jewelry store. A bridal boutique. My heart rate monitor beeped faster. Beep, beep, beep. They were using my credit card to pay for the celebration of the engagement they ignored my surgery for. They were toasting to Bella's future with champagne bought on my dime, while I lay here with a tube down my throat. Elena, Jennifer warned, looking at the monitor. Calm down. Your blood pressure is spiking. I took a deep breath, forcing the rage into a small, hard knot in my stomach. Cut them off, I said. Jennifer paused. All of it? Everything, I said. I want the credit cards cancelled. Not just suspended, reported as lost or stolen so the numbers die immediately. I want the direct debits for the mortgage stopped. I want the car payments stopped. Elena, Jennifer said softly. This is the nuclear option. If we stop the mortgage payments, they will face foreclosure in 3 months. If we cancel the cards, they will be stranded at that hotel. If we pull the car leases, it will hit your credit score slightly when we terminate early. I don't care about my credit score, I said. I have an 820. I can take the hit. Can they? Jennifer smirked. Your father has a 540. Bella has no credit history because you've been her history. Do it, I commanded. And the condo? Jennifer asked. Bella lives there. She has tenant rights, even if she doesn't pay rent. We can't just kick her out tomorrow. Draft an eviction notice, I said. Give her the statutory 30 days. Site owner moving back in, or intent to sell. I don't care. Just get the paperwork ready. It's going to be a war, Jennifer warned. They aren't going to wonder where you are anymore. They are going to come hunting for you. Let them come, I said, looking at the door. I'm not the same person they ignored on Friday. Monday morning, 9 a.m., I was moved out of the ICU and into a private room. My phone, which had been silent all weekend regarding my health, suddenly exploded. It started with a text from Bella. Bella, 9:03 a.m. Hey sis. So the venue needs the deposit like now. It's $10,000. I told them you'd wire it by noon. Don't embarrass me, Kay. Love you. I stared at the screen. Love you. A phrase she only used when attached to an invoice. I didn't reply. Mom, 9:15 a.m. Elena, why aren't you answering Bella? She is stressed out. Transfer the money. Also, Gad's card got declined at the gas station. Fix it. It's embarrassing. I imagined my father standing at a pump. The declined message flashing on the screen. His ego bruising. A small, dark smile touched my lips. Bella, 9:45 a.m. Elena? Hello? Are you ignoring me? This is my engagement. Stop being jealous and send the money. Dad, 10 a.m. Pick up the phone. Now. The Amex isn't working at the hotel checkout. They are threatening to call security if we don't provide another card. What did you do? The barrage continued. Calls, texts, FaceTime requests. My phone vibrated so constantly it was skittering across the bedside table. They weren't worried that I hadn't spoken to them in 3 days. They weren't asking why I wasn't at work. They were only panicking because the tap had run dry. Dr. Harley walked in for his rounds. He saw the phone buzzing and saw me staring at the ceiling, ignoring it. Popular today? He asked dryly. My bill collectors, I said. Otherwise known as my family. He checked my vitals. Your pressure is better. Infection markers are down. You're healing, Elena. That stress is poison for you right now. Do I need to confiscate that phone? No, I said, reaching for it. I'm about to silence it. I unlocked the phone. I didn't open the messages. I didn't type a justification. I didn't explain that I was in the hospital. If I told them now, they would use it as leverage. Oh, poor Elena, we didn't know. Now pay the bill. No, they lost the right to know. I typed a single message to the group chat. Elena, I am currently indisposed. All financial accounts associated with me have been closed effective immediately. Do not contact me. Any further communication should be directed to my attorney, Jennifer Sterling. I hit send. Then, I blocked them. Mom, Dad, Bella. Blocked. Blocked. I put the phone down and looked at Dr. Harley. For the first time in 48 hours, the crushing weight on my chest lightened. Doctor, I said, when can I go back to work? He laughed, shaking his head. You just blew up your personal life. And you're thinking about work. Give it a week, Elena. A week, I nodded. I can do a week. But I knew the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Locking them digitally was easy. But Bella was living in my house. My parents knew where I worked. And narcissists don't give up their supply without a fight. 3 hours later, Jennifer called the hospital room landline. It's done, she said. Cards cancelled. Mortgage payments stopped. Eviction notice is being served to Bella's condo tomorrow morning by a process server. Did they call you? Oh, they called. Jennifer chuckled darkly. Your father screamed at my paralegal for 10 minutes. He demanded to know where you were. He said you were having a mental breakdown, and that he needed to assume power of attorney to protect your assets. My blood ran cold. I knew it. What did you tell him? I told him that your power of attorney has been updated as of yesterday, and if he attempts to access any of your accounts, I will have him arrested for fraud. Then I told him that his Range Rover is technically stolen property if he doesn't return it within 7 days, as the lease has been terminated. And Bella? Bella sent me a DM on Instagram, Jennifer sighed. She called me a witch, though she used a different word, and said squatters' rights exist. She's going to try to stay, I said. Let her try, Jennifer said. I love a good eviction. Rest up, Elena, you started a fire, now let it burn. I hung up. I lay back against the pillows and closed my eyes. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix everything. I wasn't the one panicking. I was the one holding the matches. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized something. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. I missed the family I wanted, not the parasites I had. And curing yourself of a parasite always hurts before it heals. Part 3. The extinction burst. I was discharged from St. Jude's 4 days later. Dr. Harley signed my release papers with strict instructions. No heavy lifting, no stress, and absolute rest. He looked at me with concern as I packed my meager belongings. The clothes I had collapsed in, now laundered by the hospital staff. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" he asked. "You said your sister is in your condo." "I booked a suite at the Four Seasons," I said, zipping up my bag. "Room service, security, and no family members allowed." "Good. Take care of yourself, Elena. You survived the infection. Don't let the stress kill you now." I took an Uber to the hotel. It felt surreal to be back in the world. The sky was grey, the city was loud, and people were rushing about their lives, completely unaware that mine had just imploded. For the next 3 days, I holed up in the hotel suite. I worked remotely, answering emails and putting out fires at Vanguard Logistics. My CEO, Marcus, had been incredibly supportive. He knew I had a medical emergency, though I hadn't told him the family details yet. Jennifer, my lawyer, was my only contact with the outside world. She gave me daily briefings on the War of the Vances. "Your father returned the Range Rover," Jennifer told me over the phone on Sunday. Well, returned is a strong word. The repo guys took it from the Ritz-Carlton valet stand. Apparently, it caused quite a scene. He tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, but the lease was in your name and you terminated it. He had to take a taxi home. "And Bella? She's barricaded in the condo. She changed the locks. I've already filed for an emergency court order to enter. The eviction clock is ticking, but she is posting videos claiming you re-abusive and trying to make her homeless before her wedding." "Let her post," I said, sipping chamomile tea. "She has 50,000 followers. I have the deed." I felt a strange sense of detachment. It was like watching a reality show about someone else's life. On Monday, I decided to go back to the office. I couldn't hide forever, and frankly, the hotel walls were starting to close in on me. I put on my sharpest blazer to hide the post-surgical bloat and the bandages, applied concealer to hide the dark circles, and took a deep breath. I was Elena Vance, Senior VP. I handled supply chain crises for a living. I could handle my family. Or so I thought. The lobby of Vanguard Logistics is a fortress of glass and steel. It's designed to impress clients and intimidate competitors. I swiped my badge at the turnstile, nodding to the security guard, Frank. "Welcome back, Ms. Vance." Frank smiled. You look like you need a coffee." "Thanks, Frank." I managed a weak smile. "It's been a rough week." I made it to my office on the 40th floor without incident. Marcus came in immediately, closing the door behind him. "Elena," he said, sitting opposite my desk. "You look like a ghost. Are you sure you should be here?" "I'm fine, Marcus. The surgery went well. I just need normalcy." "Okay, but take it easy. If you need..." His sentence was cut short by the buzzing of my desk phone. Then his phone buzzed. Then the outer line blinked red. My assistant Sarah burst into the office, her eyes wide with panic. "Elena, I'm so sorry to interrupt," she stammered. "But security is on the line. There are people in the lobby. They're screaming. They say they're your parents." My stomach dropped. The physical pain in my abdomen flared up, a sharp reminder of my fragility. "What are they doing?" Marcus asked, standing up. "They're demanding to see Elena," Sarah said. "They're telling the reception staff that Elena has stolen their money and abandoned them. The woman your sister, I think, is live streaming it." I closed my eyes. Of course. The narcissist's final weapon. Public humiliation. They knew they couldn't reach me by phone, so they decided to attack my career. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would come down with a checkbook just to make them stop. 3 days ago, I might have. Today? No. "I'll handle this," I said, standing up slowly. Elena, no, Marcus said firmly. I'll call the police. You are recovering from surgery. You don't need this. If you call the police, they will play the victim, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. They'll say I'm a cruel daughter having her parents arrested. No. I need to face them. I need to end this. I'm coming with you, Marcus said. And I'm bringing security. The elevator ride down to the lobby felt like a descent into hell. When the doors opened, the noise hit me first. My daughter works here. I demand you let me up. She is stealing from us. That was my father's voice, booming and entitled. I stepped out of the elevator, flanked by Marcus and 2 large security officers. The scene was chaotic. My father was shouting at the poor receptionist. My mother was crying loud, theatrical sobs into a handkerchief. And Bella ... Bella was standing on one of the lobby chairs, phone held high, recording everything. Guys, we are literally at her office right now. Bella was shouting at her phone screen. She cut off our cards. She stole our cars and now she's hiding. This is what financial abuse looks like. A crowd of employees and clients had gathered near the coffee shop, watching the spectacle. Dad, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. They all froze. My father spun around. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. When he saw me, his eyes narrowed. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't notice that I was leaning against the security desk for support. He only saw the target. You! He marched toward me, pointing a finger. You ungrateful, spiteful little... Sir, take one more step and you will be tackled, the head of security said, stepping in front of me. Dad stopped, seething. Elena, fix this, now. You humiliated us at the hotel. You embarrassed us in front of the staff. Do you know they made us take a taxi? A taxi. And you... Bella jumped down from the chair, rushing over. Phone still recording. You evicted me? Are you insane? I'm getting married. You're ruining my life because you're a jealous, lonely spinster. Elena, my mother wailed, dropping the handkerchief. How could you? We are your family. We raised you. We sacrificed everything for you. And you cut us off over a weekend. Because we missed a phone call. A phone call? I repeated. I stepped out from behind the security guard. Marcus tried to grab my arm, but I shook him off. I walked until I was 3 feet away from them. I looked at the phone Bella was holding. I looked at the crowd watching. You didn't miss a phone call, Mom, I said quietly. We were busy. Mom snapped. Bella got engaged. We couldn't answer every time you called for attention. I didn't call you, I said. I reached into my blazer pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was the hospital discharge summary. St. Jude's Medical Center called you, I said, my voice rising, finding strength in the anger. 4 times. On Friday afternoon. So what? Bella sneered. They probably wanted to confirm an appointment. You're always going to doctors for your headaches. They called, I continued, staring at my mother. To tell you that your daughter had collapsed. That I was in septic shock. That my organs were failing. My mother's face went slack. The fake tears stopped instantly. They called to ask for consent for emergency surgery. Because I was unconscious, I said, the words ringing through the silent lobby. And do you know what you said, Mom? The nurse told me. You told them I was being dramatic. You told them to give me an aspirin. And then you hung up because I was interrupting your brunch. Bella's phone lowered slightly. The live stream comments were probably going wild, but she looked confused. Wait. You were actually sick? I almost died, Bella, I said, cold as ice. I was on an operating table bleeding internally while you were posting boomerangs of champagne toasts. I was alone in the ICU for 2 days while you charged $14,000 to my credit card. The crowd in the lobby gasped. I saw a client cover her mouth. My father looked around, realizing the audience was turning against them. Now, Elena, let's not exaggerate. If it was that serious, we would have come. You didn't come, I snapped. You didn't check. You didn't care. You only cared when the credit card was declined. I took a step closer to my father. You called me a cash machine? You're right. I was. But the machine is broken, Dad. It's out of order. Permanently. You can't do this, Dad hissed, lowering his voice. We have rights. We have an agreement. We have nothing, I said. I paid for the house. I paid for the cars. I paid for the wedding. And in return, I expected one thing. Just one thing. That if I was dying, my parents would show up. You failed the only test that mattered. I turned to the security guard. Frank, I said. These people are trespassing. They are harassing an employee. Please remove them. With pleasure, Ms. Vance, Frank said. No, you can't. Bella screamed as a guard grabbed her arm. I live in that condo. You can't kick me out. Read the eviction notice, Bella, I said, turning my back on them. You have 27 days left. I suggest you start packing instead of live streaming. Elena, wait, Mum cried out, realizing the gravity of the situation. We didn't know. I swear. We didn't know it was sepsis. We love you. I stopped near the elevator. I looked back at them one last time. They looked small, desperate, pathetic. No, Mom, I said. You love my money. And now that it's gone, you have no use for me. Goodbye. I stepped into the elevator with Marcus. As the doors closed, I saw security escorting my screaming family out the revolving doors. The silence in the elevator was heavy. Marcus looked at me. He looked at the bandage peeking out from under my shirt. Elena, he said softly. Take the month off. Paid. That's an order. I leaned my head against the cool metal wall. I was exhausted. My side was throbbing. But for the first time in years, I felt completely, wonderfully free. But I knew this wasn't the end. Narcissists don't go quietly. They had been humiliated in public. Now, they would try to destroy me in private. Bella had the keys to my condo. My parents knew my secrets. The war had just moved from the battlefield to the trenches. Marcus was true to his word. I took the month off. I moved out of the hotel and into a short-term rental, a quiet, dated townhouse on the other side of the city. I changed my phone number. I set my social media to private. For the first time in a decade, I slept more than 5 hours a night. But silence is the narcissist's greatest enemy. When you stop reacting, they escalate. It started on day 7 of my recovery. Jennifer called me in the morning. Don't look at Instagram, she said. Too late, I sighed, looking at my iPad. I'm watching it right now. Bella had launched her counteroffensive. It was a masterpiece of fiction. She had posted a 3-part storytime video series titled, Surviving My Toxic Sister. The truth about the office attack. I watched, morbidly fascinated, as Bella sat in my condo wearing a sweater I had bought her, and wept fake tears. You guys don't understand, Bella sniffled, dabbing her dry eyes. My sister has always been jealous of me. She's mentally unstable. She has Munchausen syndrome. She faked a medical emergency just to ruin my engagement party. And when we didn't fall for it, she cut off our access to food and shelter. She paused for dramatic effect. She came to our parents' house and physically attacked my dad. We went to her office just to beg for our personal belongings back. And she had security assault us. She's trying to make me homeless before my wedding because she's 32 and alone. Please, guys, I need help. She's suing us for everything. The comments were horrific. Wow, what a monster. Cancel Elena Vance. I hope she gets fired. It's defamation, Jennifer, I said calmly. It's practically a textbook case. It is, Jennifer agreed. But it's getting worse. She's tagging Vanguard Logistics. She's tagging your clients. She's trying to destroy your professional reputation. Let her tag them, I said. My clients know me. They know I deliver. Ella thinks the world runs on likes. She's about to learn the world runs on contracts and evidence. The professional fallout was annoying but manageable. HR at Vanguard received a barrage of emails from concerned citizens demanding my firing. Marcus handled it beautifully. He issued a generic statement supporting employee privacy and blocked the trolls. But the real blow came 3 weeks later. The eviction notice period was up. Bella had refused to leave. We had to get a sheriff's order to forcibly remove her. Jennifer and I met the sheriff's deputies outside the condo building at 9 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday. I brought a locksmith. I also brought a videographer, not for social media, but for evidence. Stay behind me, Miss Vance, the deputy said, hand resting near his belt. Domestic evictions can get volatile. He knocked on the door. Sheriff's Department, open up. Silence. He knocked again. We have a warrant for possession. Open the door or we will breach. Still silence. The locksmith drilled the lock. The sound was deafening in the quiet hallway. When the mechanism clicked, the deputy pushed the door open. A smell hit us instantly. A mixture of rotting food, cheap perfume, and something chemical ... like bleach. Clear, the deputy shouted, moving room to room. Nobody here. I stepped inside. And then I stopped. My beautiful, modern condo, the first thing I had ever bought for myself. The symbol of my hard work was destroyed. The white walls were spray-painted with black and red, graffiti. Selfish, ugly, unloved. Die alone. The leather sofa was slashed open, stuffing spilling out like entrails. The 65-inch TV was smashed. I walked into the kitchen. Every cabinet door was ripped off its hinges. The refrigerator was open, unplugged, with food rotting inside. But the worst part was the sink. Is that? Jennifer covered her nose with a handkerchief. Cement, I said, looking at the grey sludge hardening in the drain. She poured quick-dry cement down the garbage disposal. I walked to the bedroom. My clothes, some of which I had left there for storage, were in a pile on the bed, soaked in bleach and red wine. My jewelry box was empty, but on the dresser, stabbed into the wood with a steak knife, was a note. I pulled it free. It was written in Bella's bubbly handwriting. You wanted your house back? Here it is. Hope you can afford the repairs, you rich BTCH. Consider this my severance package. Peace Mom took the curtains. Asterisk, I looked around the room. The curtains, custom silk drapes that cost $3,000, were indeed gone. Jennifer was taking photos, her face pale with rage. This isn't a tenancy dispute anymore, Elena. This is felony vandalism, grand larceny, malicious destruction of property over $5,000. I stood in the middle of the wreckage. I should have been devastated. I should have been crying over the destruction of my home. But instead, I felt a cold, calculating calm settle over me. How much? I asked. Excuse me. Estimate the damage. Roughly. Jennifer looked around. The plumbing alone. The floors ... the walls ... the stolen items. Easily $50,000 to $80,000. Maybe more. Good, I said. I turned to the deputy, who was shaking his head at the graffiti. Deputy, I said, I want to file a police report. I want to press charges. Not civil charges. Criminal charges. You have grounds, ma'am, the deputy said. This is a crime scene. I know my sister, I said, pulling out my phone. She's stupid. She probably filmed herself doing it. I opened Instagram. Bella hadn't posted in 12 hours. But she had a private Snapchat she used with her friends. I wasn't on it. But my cousin Emily, the one decent person in my extended family, was. I called Emily. Emily, send me Bella's snaps from last night. Now. Elena, send them, or I subpoena your phone. 2 minutes later, a video file arrived. I played it for the deputy. It showed Bella and my mother drinking wine in my living room last night. To Elena. Mum slurped, spilling wine on the carpet intentionally. May she rot in her money. Then, the video showed Bella pouring the cement into the sink while laughing maniacally. Oops. Plumbing issues. Call a plumber, sis. The deputy watched the video. His expression hardened. That's a confession, he said. And that's your mother? Yes, I said. Margaret Vance. Do you know where they are? The Ritz-Carlton evicted them 3 weeks ago, I said. They are likely at my aunt's house in Tacoma. Or ... I remembered Bella's obsession. ... She has a wedding cake tasting today at noon. She posted about it yesterday. A cake tasting? Jennifer raised an eyebrow. She's homeless, facing a lawsuit, and she's tasting cake. Priorities, I said. I looked at the deputy. If I tell you where they are, will you arrest them? For a felony of this magnitude? Absolutely. Let's go, I said, stepping over a pile of bleached clothes. I want to crash a wedding tasting. The bakery, 12:30 p.m. The Sweet Dreams Patisserie was an elegant, pastel-colored shop downtown. Through the glass window I could see them. My mother, father, and Bella were sitting at a white table, sampling slices of red velvet cake. They were laughing. They looked carefree. They looked like they hadn't just destroyed a home and a daughter's life. They were spending money they didn't have, on a wedding that would never happen, living in a delusion bubble that was about to pop. I sat in Jennifer's car across the street, watching. 2 police cruisers pulled up silently, blocking the bakery entrance. I saw the confusion on my father's face as 2 uniformed officers entered the shop. I saw my mother stand up, indignant. I saw Bella drop her fork. The officers spoke to them. My father pointed at his chest, doing his, "Do you know who I am?" routine. The officer didn't care. He pulled out handcuffs. Bella screamed. I couldn't hear it through the glass, but I saw her mouth open wide, her face twisting into the ugly mask I knew so well. She tried to pull away. The officer spun her around and cuffed her hands behind her back. Then they moved to my mother. She went limp, fainting dramatically into a chair. The officers weren't buying it. They hauled her up and cuffed her too. My father was arguing, his face purple. They handed him a citation likely for being an accomplice. But they arrested the women for the vandalism caught on video. I watched as my mother and sister were marched out of the bakery, past the shocked patrons and shoved into the back of a squad car. Bella looked out the window. For a second, her eyes locked onto Jennifer's car. She couldn't see me through the tinted glass, but she knew. She knew I was watching. Jennifer started the engine. That, she said, was satisfying. It's not over, I said, watching the police lights fade into traffic. Arrest is one thing. Conviction is another. And I'm going to make sure they get the maximum sentence. You really want to send your mother and sister to prison? Jennifer asked softly. I thought about the hospital room, the empty chair, the phone calls ignored, the die alone spray-painted on my wall. They built their own prison, I said. I'm just locking the door. The courtroom smelled of floor wax and stale coffee. It was a smell I would associate with victory for the rest of my life. 6 months had passed since the arrests at the bakery. 6 months of legal maneuvering, plea bargain attempts, and desperate smear campaigns. My father had spent the last of his retirement savings hiring a flashy defense attorney for Bella and Mom, a man who wore suits that were too shiny and made promises he couldn't keep. I sat in the front row, flanked by Jennifer and Marcus. I wore a white suit sharp, pristine armor. My mother and Bella sat at the defense table. They looked diminished. Prison greys didn't suit Bella's complexion. Her roots had grown out, revealing the mousy brown hair beneath the blonde dye. My mother looked frail, her haughty posture replaced by a slump of defeat. They had been denied bail because of the flight risk. Bella had apparently Googled countries with no extradition treaty the night before her arrest. The trial had been swift. The video evidence I provided was damning. The damage to the condo was indisputable. The dye alone, graffiti, was matched to Bella's handwriting by an expert. But today wasn't about the trial. Today was sentencing. Judge Harrison, a stern woman with zero tolerance for theatrics, shuffled her papers. She looked over her glasses at the defendants. In 20 years on the bench, the judge began, her voice echoing in the silent room, I have seen crimes of passion, crimes of greed, and crimes of desperation. But rarely have I seen crimes of such pettiness and entitlement. She looked directly at Bella. Miss Bella Vance, you not only destroyed your sister's property, causing over $78,000 in damages, but you also bragged about it on social media. You showed zero remorse. In your pre-sentencing interview, you stated that you deserved the condo because your sister had enough money. Bella sniffled. I was emotional. She ruined my wedding. Your sister, the judge cut her off sharply, was in the ICU, fighting for her life while you were planning a party. The victim impact statement provided by Ms. Elena Vance paints a clear picture of long-term financial exploitation. The judge turned to my mother. And you, Mrs. Margaret Vance, a mother aiding and abetting the destruction of her own child's home. It is shameful. My father, sitting in the back row, put his head in his hands. He hadn't been charged criminally, but his reputation was in tatters. He was living in a rental apartment now, working as a greeter at a hardware store to make ends meet. The country club friends had ghosted them the moment the mugshots hit the news. Please stand for sentencing, the judge commanded. They stood trembling. Bella Vance, for the count of felony vandalism and grand larceny, I sentence you to 3 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of probation. You are also ordered to pay full restitution of $78,400 to the victim. Bella screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of a spoiled child being told no for the very first time. 3 years? No. Daddy, do something. My father didn't move. He couldn't. Margaret Vance, the judge continued, for being an accessory to a felony, I sentence you to 18 months in state prison. Perhaps this time away will give you perspective on your failures as a parent. The gavel banged. Bam. As the bailiffs moved to cuff them, my mother turned to look at me. Her eyes were wild, filled with hatred. You did this, she shrieked. You sent your own mother to prison. You are evil, Elena. You will die alone, just like we wrote. I stood up slowly. I walked to the wooden railing that separated the gallery from the court. No, Mom, I said softly, though I knew she could hear me. I won't die alone. I'll die free. Free of your debts. Free of your drama. Free of you. They were dragged out the side door. The heavy metal door slammed shut, sealing their fate. I felt Marcus squeeze my hand. It's over, Elena. I took a deep breath. The air tasted clean. Yes, I said. It is. 1 year later, I sat on the balcony of my newly renovated condo. The walls were painted a soft sage green. The furniture was new. The kitchen sink worked perfectly. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from Vanguard Logistics. We had just closed the Southeast Asia deal. My bonus this year would be substantial. But I wasn't going to use it to buy affection. I scrolled through my messages. Dad, Elena. Please. The rent is due. I'm old. My back hurts from the store. Can you spare $500? Just this once? I miss you. I looked at the message. I felt nothing. No guilt. No anger. Just a mild indifference, like looking at a stranger's spam email. I didn't block him. I liked keeping the line open, just to see the reminders of why I left. It was my daily affirmation. I put the phone down and looked at the guest sitting across from me. So, Dr. Lucas Halley said, sipping his wine. How does it feel to be the villain in their story? Lucas and I had started dating 6 months after my discharge. He had been the one to encourage me to go to therapy. He was the family I chose. I smiled, raising my glass. It feels, I said, looking at the city skyline, like survival. I had lost my parents, my sister, and my past. But I had found my spine. And that was a trade I would make 1,000 times over. The golden child was in a cell. The ATM was closed. And Elena Vance? She was finally, truly living. If you think Elena was right to press charges and send her toxic family to prison, smash that like button. And here's a question for you. Is family always first? Or is there a line that, once crossed, means you should cut them off forever? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice served cold.